We're preparing, setting up. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Holistic Health on Topic. And we are thrilled to have you here with us today. We have a very special guest, and hopefully, some of you were able to see what we're going to be talking about today. We have with us the lovely co host, Colleen, with
Hello.
digital media. And our very special guest today is Travis Hlavka,
Pretty
and who
close.
is, I said it right, who is the CEO of Strategy Driven Solutions. And he's also the creator of the Human Upgrade Project. So, welcome, welcome, Travis. We
Thank
are
you.
so thrilled to have you with us today. And I know the topic today is going to be very tantalizing for a lot of people because it is chasing perfection, but transform the mind and body with impossible goals. This is going to be something. People are going to go, what are you talking about? Why would we want impossible goals? So, Travis, I would love for you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself first.
How far back should I go?
How far back do you want? Well, I will say this for those of you who had joined us in December for Faith, Hope, and Love Summit. Travis was one of our very special guest speakers. And also when we did the speaker panel in January. So you might be a little familiar, but we're taking this a little bit on another side as well, because Travis is very multidimensional and very skill sets. And so I will let you share what you would like to share, Travis.
I'll go with what's relevant for today. How about that? And just a little bit about kind of how I got into this space of human optimization and chasing perfection. And that all started, it actually started when I was about 9 years old. And I grew up on a ranch in the mountains of Colorado. And this guy came out to work on our ranch one day. I'd never seen him before and actually never saw him again after one day. And he was just this little stocky guy, big arms, and could lift a lot of stuff. And he looked at me and I was tiny. I was skinny, skinny, skinny. And he said, "Hey, you kid, you want to be big and strong like me?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And he said, he goes, "Do 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups every morning and every night." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I started doing that, and one thing led to another. Ended up just diving in head first into everything that had anything to do with strength training. And then my mom got sick. And when my mom got sick, she had to have surgery, get some things taken out. And when she got back, one of her friends gave us a juicer and one of those old style centrifugal ones that spins around really fast. So they said, "Hey, this will help your mom get better faster." And so then I just dove into nutrition and juicing and still around 9, 10 years old. And from there, I just saw the benefits of what could happen by pushing yourself and helping others upgrade and evolve and optimize and all of that. So there's a lot more to it than that, but that's where it started. And ever since then, I've always been looking for every way that I could upgrade, optimize, and shoot for perfection in, mentally and physically. Because if you don't have your mind dialed in and the right awareness, perspective, philosophy on the direction you're going, then it's harder or almost impossible to get your body in that space where it needs to be.
Well, that was what first got you started was a very important thing to have happened that not only impacted you as a child, but also imprinted you. And so, how wonderful for your mother
It worked
and
out
for the
pretty
rest of
well.
and for the rest of us now.
Definitely, definitely. It's always, I like to look at everything good and bad as a lesson in one way or another, and how can you learn from what is happening and take that and grow from it.
Oh, absolutely. Exactly. Because that is how we grow. Things aren't, a lot of people, when difficult situations hit us, some tragedies hit us, we take it as if the universe is against us, but that really isn't the truth because it fortifies us from all these different challenges that happen to take the next step and to be more expanded and grow. So, yeah, I completely, I'm with you 1000%. And so, your approach, of course, this is why you're on holistic health. When we're dealing with mind, body, and spirit, to start to accomplish this, to not only be able to reach certain goals, but also to be able to sustain them, because that's what you were talking about a little bit in the beginning. Could you please start to explain what you mean by that exactly?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. One of the biggest things that I've noticed is I wouldn't say it's easy to achieve the things we want to achieve, but it's easier to achieve things than it is to maintain those things and be consistent with them. And anybody that's gone to the gym ever knows that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Holidays come up, whatever happens, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, I haven't gone to the gym, or I haven't gone on a walk or a run or whatever for X amount of time, and restarting that makes it more difficult. So what I've done is figured out a way to integrate it and make it part of the biggest thing that I've noticed is making it part of who you are instead of something that you do. Because when it's something that you do, it turns into a chore versus like, this is just who I am. This is the way things work, and that's the way the universe is. There's no distinction between, for me, like with my training and the things that I do, there's no distinction between me and that thing because it is me. So I don't have to say, I'm going to go do a workout. I'm just going. That's just how it works. It's kind of
Yeah,
like
well,
gravity, right?
yeah, it is in a state of in beingness and encompassing it as a that's how you live. But I have often found with people in general that they don't know how to get from point A to point B. How can I change it from something I have to do, something that I have to work at, versus how to be at?
hmm And the first thing would be reframing it from something that you have to do this to something that you get to do, right? We've all
Mm-hmm.
probably heard that before. But a good way to break it down also is I'm really big on awareness, perspective, and philosophy, and using a 21-day format to develop the habit. Because right, there's stuff out there that says like it takes 21 days to build a habit. And there's other stuff out there that says, science, Charles Duhigg's book, what's that called? The Power of Habit, I believe. He proved that it's like 66 days, something like that. And then there's up to and even more than that. But I like to go with the least amount possible when possible. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've broken it down. And if you can do anything for 21 days, and I broke it down into like 7 days of learning and applying, and then 7 days of applying and taking action, and then 7 days of integrating it and figuring out. A lot of times, what I've discovered is people will start doing something because it's supposed to be good for them, and then they hate it. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
right. So instead of looking at it like, okay, I hate this thing, what can I do that will get me a similar result? And it's not this thing. they just keep doing the thing because their doctor told them or whoever, you have to exercise. Okay, well, I'm going to go to the gym. Well, you don't have to go to the gym, right? You can play with your kids. You can do a lot of different things to get the same end result. So it's about when you're setting that goal and shooting for that perfection, for your definition of that perfection, what are the incremental steps that you have to take on the way to that? And also having backup plans. I call it if then. I have a spreadsheet actually that I usually, you don't need a spreadsheet. I'll write it out. If this happens, I'm going to do this. So anytime you have something that you're going for, there's always going to be stuff that gets in the way. There's going to be the holidays, there's going to rain, it's going to
Oh,
snow, it's
absolutely.
going to, yeah. So prepare for that in advance. And then you train yourself to be, instead of reactive, you train yourself to be proactive and be able to, you know, zig and zag when necessary and make the adjustments to where, if you miss a day, okay, cool, you can get back on track a lot quicker that way. So I'm not sure if that answered your question specifically.
Well, sure. No, it's so people can start to understand, okay, it's always been work for me. How can I not make it work and still have results? But I have found in my work the biggest contribution to them succeeding is the consistency.
Mhm.
So, in order for when I do some training in energy work, it's the first getting connected and grounded. And so they can, in moments, calm their system down, right?
Mhm.
But I put them on a 30-day track with being consistent morning and evening, just a few minutes. But should they miss a day, they have to start the count over.
Yep.
Because it is that consistency that builds that new habit. And then it goes from the thought of, okay, I'm trying to build a new habit. And then, like magic, when you reach a certain point, it just is.
Mhm.
And so you're not thinking about it, especially if you can start getting results with something really fast, because most people want instant gratification, at least some value of it somewhere to give the motivation to keep on going, because it is easy to fall back to the default of excuses of not doing something, then embracing, and I mean embracing the opportunity to be able to do something. Because a lot of people have many different health issues that they're not able to go out and to go jogging, but they can walk. Some people can't even walk. So, whatever you can do where you are is a blessing into itself, because there's always going to be somebody that doesn't have the capability that you have, whatever you do have to work with.
Mhm. And part of that too is, and I'm guilty of this. That's why I say it is a lot of times what we do is we'll set a goal or we'll set an objective or give ourselves a bunch of things to do and give ourselves too many things to do for one, but then set
Guilty.
it like, yeah, right. And then set
Guilty.
like, I'm going to the gym every day, or I'm going to go in the morning and I'm going at night. And you haven't been doing anything for X amount of time. So you go from zero, it's like trying to go from 0 to 100 without the on ramp or the off ramp or whatever. And without that consistency in the beginning and making it easy and making it fun. I'm a huge believer in fun. So the 21-day thing, I actually tack 7 days onto the end of that. And I say, in those 7 days, when reevaluate whether or not you actually want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, what are you going to do instead of that that's going to get you to the same place, like I was saying? And that way you have you can see where you're at, where you want to go, and if what you're doing is working. It goes from the integration phase into that
Mhm.
kind of reevaluation phase. And I used to say, make it fun, always make it fun. And that was kind of just a blanket statement. And I heard something recently and I wish I could remember who it is because I would give him credit, but it was how do I make this 10% more fun? So same concept as the other thing, like I'm gonna go to the gym every day. Instead of like, how can I make this completely fun? How can I just make it 10% more fun to be able to not
Yeah.
make it seem like work or like I have to do this?
That's a good percentage to try and factor in because anybody can factor in 10%.
Hmm.
But really, it is not easy to factor in 100%, especially on days you're dragging your butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so speaking about all of that and taking the steps and not taking on too much and making it more fun, where does the impossible come into play?
The
Is
impossible. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, is it their mindset, their fixed mindset at first that they feel it's impossible, or is it something else?
I think it could be a combination of potentially a fixed mindset. For me, when I realized this, it was because I would just do things. I didn't if I wanted to do something, I didn't look at was it possible? What does everybody else say? How am I going to do it? I would just go do it. One example, I climbed Kilimanjaro. Everybody's like, "What are you doing for training?" I was like, "You're supposed to train." Like, I'm just gonna go do it. Like, and I wouldn't recommend that to everybody because I work out a lot. I don't do
Wait a
any
minute, let's
cardio or
back up
anything
a
yet.
little bit. Let's back up a little bit. You hiked Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, yeah. So it's just one of the random things. Like I just do these things because why not? And I don't do them to like I don't tell anybody about this. I just like I'm gonna go do this thing and that's cool and it's fun. And then people are like, you have to train. You have to go do you have to and I'm like, why? I'm just gonna do it. And then that has backfired on me. So again, I would say, you
I
have
was
to
gonna
be
say, little
smart.
prep work
You
would
have to
be
be smart.
wise.
Yeah, you have to be smart about it. Sometimes I get a little too cavalier with, I'm like, I'm just going to do that thing. But at the same time, the benefit of that is I am just open to this possibility that it is possible for me to just go do this thing without training or whatever. Like I just expect that it's going to be fine. And um, I don't even know if anybody, I think people knew. I don't know. I just like, uh, so, so doing that makes it, I got in the habit of just doing the things and doing them because it was pushing my limits and I wasn't listening to, I'd get done with something and people were like, well, you can't do that, or you're not supposed to be able to do that, or whatever. I was like, oh, I didn't know. And that's how it kind of developed into this. Originally, I called it, and I still do actually, conscious ignorance as to what you're capable of. I don't look externally ever whenever I want to do something. I never, I'll talk to some people about it that I know are similar mindset as far as chasing perfection goes and things like that. But I know who I should not talk to a lot of times. And we all have people like that, right? If you say
Mhm.
you're searching for something, you're doing something, you're striving for something, they unfortunately have a habit of not being as optimistic as you might be. And so I will just go do it, or I'll talk to the people that I know and they'll give me a little bit of advice, something like that. And that helps. But the conscious ignorance I realize comes in is I purposely don't search out ways that I can't do something. And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of times that's what people will do inadvertently is by talking to a lot of people about a certain thing, they end up finding about out 80% of the ways that they can't do it and 20% of the ways they can, and then it makes it more difficult to do.
Right. And I was going to ask you to circle back to this so people have a stronger understanding of it. Because in my protocols, I go from the impossible to the possible.
Mhm.
And and it is very important, and this is a big key, and you were just starting to go into that, which is perfect, that we have the conscious ignorance, which is great, but we also have the conscious discernment or choice as to who to start to listen to or seek out. And so when one wants to start something new that will benefit them, the people who are supportive of what they want to accomplish would be the only ones to share that with, because the others, which is a larger group than we would like, are really the naysayers, because all you have to do is look at their life. Are they doing anything like this? And if they're not, and if they are constantly talking something down, then it not only lowers your ambition, but it does lower your frequency and any motivation or drive. And then it puts you back into the default of excuses. So it is very, very important when you're going to start something new to definitely first sit back and, other than be with yourself, and there's some protocols in that and energy work, but it's like, who do I share this with and who do I just keep it to myself? That's part of
Mhm.
the success, without question. I know when I was running my fitness and wellness studio on the West Coast, that's one of the first things I'd get rid of with my clients. If they were first gung ho and then all of a sudden their demeanor changed and they really weren't applying themselves, I sat down and I said, okay, who have you been talking to?
Mhm.
And I always find that they ended up speaking to somebody, say, oh, well, you can't do that. Well, don't expect to get that many results and all of this nonsense. So it is a very, I think, essential key. Would you agree?
100%, 1,000%. The who you surround yourself with, right? There's the old saying, the five
Mhm.
people you surround yourself with the most are everybody rubs off on everybody else kind of a thing. And it a good thing, something that is really, really good to do that people can do is start paying attention. This comes into the awareness aspect of things, is start paying attention everywhere you go to the way that other people speak, and
Mhm.
then look at their lives also. And you just become a detective, right? You're always investigating. You're always like, you're not listening in on people like a creep, not being creepy or anything. But
Yeah, no.
but it's really funny because you'll show up. I've had examples where I've gone places, and when you walk into a place, and I've caught myself almost doing this, and I used to do it, right? And that's how I know, because I used to do this, where you see an accident on the way to, like, I'm going to the gym or going somewhere, see an accident, and it's like this crazy bad accident. And you get to the place you're going, and somebody's like, how's it going? It's like, holy cow, you should have seen this accident that I saw. That just
Mm.
lowers the vibration completely of the whole room potentially. And instead of doing that, if I see something like that, now I'm aware of that. I'm like, oh, I hope they're okay. And then I look for something good. Is there an eagle somewhere? Is there something that I can like focus on that I can, and I've had that happen where it's like I see a bad accident, and then over on this side of the road I see a giant eagle or a falcon or like a wild animal or something that's just not normal but amazing. And then I have a choice when I get to the place I'm going. Do I talk about the accident because everybody can relate to that and everybody will jump in on that? If I talk about this amazing other thing I saw that wasn't, um, I don't want to say negative, but it wasn't a lower vibration. It's not as conversational. People don't want to jump. It's really interesting to see the difference when you start paying attention to other people and you start paying attention to yourself and the way that you're talking and the way you're speaking and the words that you're using, how other people react.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah, no, exactly. In fact, in my protocols, my 2Q, TQE protocols, I have language tracking. And it's specifically designed to get you to become aware of really where your belief system really is held, and it is by your thoughts, by what you speak, what pulls by the energy of the actions that you take, and what you end up magnetizing to you. And it's all of that. So when we're talking to most people, um, who would relate more to an accident than they would to something majestic as an eagle, they won't know what to quite do with you about that. But when you join them, then it does lower all the frequency. But that's where their energy is. And if you definitely want to, people use the word motivated, but it's a great deal more than that. If you want to be in a better state of being, then it is about start listening to yourself, see where you are, and then start cueing into how other people are. Because pretty much we only put the limitations on ourselves of what we believe or what we listen to other people, and we take on their beliefs onto us.
Yeah.
So that's not how you get into the impossible realm.
Right. Well, part of that too comes down to, I know it comes down to, I want to say like tribe mentality or collective mentality and it probably gets into the mammalian part of the brain and all that kind of stuff and the neuroscience behind it and everything, which I don't know completely, but it's, if I go in somewhere and I tell somebody about something majestic that I saw, the likelihood of them wanting to engage with me and a group of people engage with me is a lot lower than if I go in and I'm like, I just saw an accident. There was somebody like dead on the road and you couldn't believe it. There was cars everywhere. And then you just subconsciously, we know that if we have that and we throw that out there, 10 people, 15 people are going to be like, holy cow, that was, you know what? I saw one too. And then it creates this bond versus I saw
Mhm.
this majestic sight on the way in. And you have out of those 15 people, you have maybe five, three that will jump in
Or one.
depending on, yeah, or one, depending on the group you're in, right? So, and
Hmm.
that's why who you surround yourself with is so important too, because if you go to the right group, you'll have 15 people that will be on the same page and be like, you know what? I was in the mountains the other day, or I was down at the river the other day, and I saw something similar to that. I saw some ducks or whatever. So that's why paying attention and having the awareness around that for yourself and for other people is so critical because it gives you the ability to make those adjustments while you're striving for that perfection and in the way that you even jokingly I used to joke not joke I used to say things jokingly, right? Like I'm like, oh, I'm getting old, or there's a
Oh yeah.
Garth
Mm-mm.
Brooks.
Bad, 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 bad.
There's this Garth Brooks song. I still love it. It's a great song. It's much too young to feel this damn old. And that was like my theme song long time ago. And I used to just like that was like the thing. And then I realized one day through a series of events that even talking about that, even if I didn't like think it, saying it out loud over and over again, your brain just takes it in. And a good example of that is I used to say things like that sucks, right? Somebody say something happened. I'd be, oh, that sucks. And it was just I had said it so many times that I didn't even realize I was saying it. And that's why surrounding yourself with those people is really nice also, because then you can hold each other accountable. But the person that did it was actually my dad. And I said one day, that sucks. And he actually stopped and he goes, you sure say it stuff sucks a lot. And I never said it in a bad tone or anything. But when he said that, I was like, oh, wow, I actually do. And that
It
was just
became a
another
habit
moment.
without knowing you embraced it.
Yeah, yeah. So instead of, and I thought it was fine, but as soon as I made that adjustment and started not saying that, I wouldn't say like, all the best things in the world happened and everything was butterflies and rainbows, but it gave me the ability to make that shift into shooting for perfection and not having some other little hook in me that's kind of like trying to drag me back.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we go into the perfection, I do want to make a statement though. When we were talking about being aware of how other people were speaking and everything, whether it really aligns with us, we're not talking about judging them for how they're speaking or what they're doing,
Mhm.
right? We're just
Um,
talking about us just being the observer, period. There is no judgment in that. So that isn't something that we advocate to judge somebody on something different. Um, and that's not going to help you. It's going to lower your
no.
frequency if you
And
start.
that's a whole nother rabbit hole because
It's a whole nother rabbit hole.
it's
But
like you don't know what's happening in their life,
I
right?
just,
So,
I just wanted to put that out there. um, so let's talk a little bit about perfection. Okay. And the myth about perfection, because it really is a myth,
mhm.
even though we're designed wonderfully and we're masterpieces in the divine's eye, because we are. But perfection is different than that. Yet we strive for perfection and talk about falling down the rabbit hole and getting burnt out,
Hmm.
right? So your viewpoint about perfection itself when you're talking about chasing perfection, and yet you want to achieve the impossible goal. Now, some people will think that is contradictory, but it isn't. So I would love for you to give your take on that, Travis.
Yeah, yeah. So one distinction I should make is the difference between being perfect and trying to be perfect and perfection. And then the impossible goal, because so many things that were impossible in the past, like the 4 minute mile, heart transplants, you know, flying around the world, a lot of different things in the world that everybody's like, oh, that's completely impossible. That'll never happen. You'll die if you try doing it. Somebody eventually makes it happen. And not that everybody is going to reach this impossible goal. That brings up another point is in the perfection aspect is striving. I heard a saying one time that is striving for perfection, knowing you'll never reach it, but being okay with that, and being okay with that. And the reason that
Mhm.
a good example would be if you've ever been in a circumstance where you were shooting for a goal and you're working really, really hard, you put in a lot of effort, you put in a lot of time, and you reach that goal. And say it took 6 months or a year or even longer. And once you hit that goal, then there's nothing after it unless you've taken time to set that up. But it can be really deflating and really disempowering to do that. So if you're aiming for perfection, shooting for this impossible thing or this supposedly impossible thing, then, and knowing that you'll never reach it, and being okay with that, you're able to set up milestones along the way. You're able to set up the tasks that feed the objectives, that feed the goals, that feed the impossibility or the supposed impossibility that leads to the perfection. And it becomes a never-ending journey. And by doing that, you have that, it gives you the ability, the chance, the drive, depending on how you set it up, to just
Mhm.
make it part of who you are, and knowing that you're just continually little by little, 1% better, 0.1% better, doesn't matter as long as there's some sort of progress and you're able to look at the progress you're making instead of the end. Because people will get stuck on that, and I've done that myself, is like I get stuck on this thing that's like 5 years away or forever away, and I'm looking out there instead of looking 2 steps in front of me where I need to go next, like what's important now. Like who was the guy that won, the swimmer that won the 8 gold medals in the Olympics. Um, oh, I should remember, but I don't.
That's
Anyway,
okay. That's okay.
he had an acronym
It'll
called
come
WIN.
back.
Yeah, it'll
Or
come back.
not.
But he had this acronym called WIN, and it's what's important now.
Hmm.
And that is what I remind myself of and others of a lot of times when they start getting too far ahead. It's like, okay, hold on a second. What do you need to do right now to keep the momentum going, to keep the consistency going, to be able to get closer to that impossible thing, that perfect version, that perfection that you're looking for in the thing that you're and
Right.
chasing perfection to me is more of a metaphor, I guess, if that's the right
Yeah, it
term.
really is. It's like, well, there is a balance between envisioning your future and bringing it to present. But if you're not in the present, whatever you're doing in the present, even if you're unconscious with what you're doing in the present, that is going to end up being your future. So if you want your future to turn out this way, then you need to be present taking the steps to make that happen. And also, the impossible is is a temporary gauge. It's a timeline thing that in whatever period of time, whatever was, like you said, was impossible in time, depending on what it is, will become possible. So now the impossible is possible. And the blues about achieving what you were after and yet have nothing else pre-set up. It's kind of like what would always happen in the entertainment field when I was within Disney. We'd end up with this amazing production that's going on, a couple of years it takes and could take longer. And as soon as we're finished and it's in the can, there is always this first post-production blues. Everybody feels it because there's excitement built up in the doing and seeing something be created. And then you see it, it's amazing. And then what next? The
Yeah.
energy level is so extreme. So it's very important to not limit yourself and say, oh, when I reach this, that's all I ever need. And I don't need to dream and create anything beyond that. And that's a fallacy because we are divine creators and we need to constantly create. And I think that's why that also happens.
Yeah, I totally agree. Good example of that. When I used to do ballet, same thing. We'd have a perform. We'd rehearse for 6 months, and then we'd have this big show for 5 days or whatever, and all these performances, and then it's done. It's just over. And it was actually when I first started, it was a really depressing because you put all this time in and then it's just over. Like everybody's gone. There's no rehearsal tomorrow. What do I do with myself?
Yeah,
And that's
very anticlimactic.
yeah, and that's why having purpose in what your impossible goal is or what you're striving for, making that part of making that part that used to be when we hit the end, it's really depressing. I get sad, all of that stuff. Making that part of the process in the evolution of who you're becoming versus making that the end point. so that you don't have, because I mean, a lot of the dancers go through it all the time. And I went through it myself. It was like it was not fun. So,
No, it was kind of it was kind of devastating. I used to do interpretive jazz and stuff, so I know exactly what you mean there too. And yeah, so I'm glad you are circling into adding to this purpose.
yes. And that is, so having that purpose, having who is it? Lubinsky. I had a note somewhere. Let me see. There's a saying that, or not a saying, it's happy people have projects, right? And I don't know, I thought I had it written down somewhere. It's in a book. Anyways, having your project be the purpose, and having that sense of purpose is huge, because it leads to the hopefulness instead of the hopelessness that happens at the end of something, right? After you get done with the performance, whatever, it's just like, I don't know, what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna go home and go
Because
to
it's a
bed, I
lot of hard
guess.
work to get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So the purpose is huge. And a lot of times, even if you don't have your purpose nailed down, having um having the project of developing that purpose can be something that sustains you during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not talking about necessarily the ultimate purpose of your entire life. We're talking again, chunking it down. We're talking about the purpose of that goal,
Hmm.
you know, achievable steps, not kind of what I used to do too. I liked your analogy of the things that you did used to do. I used to kind of like leap off a cliff and not worry about the consequences. And sometimes I'd be shocked. I go splat, and it never dawned on me that that could happen. And so, so yeah, I'm a little wiser in that sense. But it is important to feel your reasoning behind, your purpose behind why you want to do this. And sometimes it takes a lot to understand what the whys are. And that's what we help people do, is find out what the whys are, because it could be the wrong choice for them for this point in time in their life. It could be an old dream that they had as a child but doesn't fit now, or it could be something that absolutely it's time to pick up. But if the whys are strong enough, then they will be the complete structure and foundation and the scaffolding to be able to achieve that in what in their mindset temporarily is impossible.
Hmm.
But if you can conceive it, then it really isn't impossible. Maybe you don't know the method to get there yet. And if your mindset says, well, I have to be perfect at it, otherwise I can't do it, then that is chasing perfection. That is a falsehood in that, because it is a process, especially being human. It our life is a process. Other dimensions we're different, but as the human being, it is most definitely a process. So, what would you tell our audience how to first approach this?
Oh, that's perfect. That leads me right into what I was thinking.
I
So
know, I can
we're on the
feel
same
you. I'm
page here. This
highly
is good.
intuitive, kid, so
When the best way I've seen to do that is defining what perfection is, for one. And then once you define that, not defining what you need to do to reach that impossible perfection that you want, but who you need to become. And I mean, people said this over the years forever, right? Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, all the icons of personal development, and then in all the spaces, like who do you need to become to achieve that, not what do you need to do. And I have to reel myself in a lot of times around that also because I like doing things. I just want to do. And then next thing you know, I forget about who I need to be to become that. And another way to look at it too, there's a really good book called Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield. And it basically a short version is it's about defining that pro version, that professional version of you in the area that you want to achieve perfection. And he doesn't use perfection, but in my words, right, achieving that perfection, who do you need to be? And then as you are working towards that, making sure that you're being that person. What would the professional version of me do? What would the perfect, most optimized, actualized version of me do in this moment? And sometimes you think of that after the fact, right? You're like, oh,
Mhm.
well, I blew up on that one, or I had
Oh,
road
yeah.
rage over here. But then you can just go back and replay it in your mind. Like, okay, what would have the professional, perfect, perfection version of me? What would he have done? And then I just have a conversation with myself, and it's like, oh, well, he would have done this and this and this. Okay, cool. So you replay that in your mind, and then you have that in your subconscious for the next time. So the next time it happens, it doesn't catch you off guard and you are able to be proactive instead of reactive to it.
Yeah. So a simple example that you gave us is that sucks.
Hmm.
That person would not have said that. Oh, okay. Make note.
Yeah. And then the biggest thing about that too is, and this is huge because in doing that, in seeing like, oh, the professional version of me, the version of me that's most optimized, actualized, and has everything figured out, wouldn't have done that. Oh, I'm not a good person. I suck. I whatever, right? It's not about beating yourself up. It's about learning from it and moving on. You're either making progress or you're learning. There's no failure. And right, some things don't work out like they're supposed to, but if you look at it as a learning experience instead of beating yourself up about it,
Yeah,
then
which only spins you off in the opposite direction.
yep. And then it just right because the what you focus on expands.
Yep.
And you can see that, and that's when we go back all the way back to the beginning, right? And you start watching other people and you start watching one, just what they do, but then who they are, how they speak, and all of that. And you'll start seeing that the more somebody, as an example, the more somebody complains about some specific aspect of either their life or their boss or their whoever, the worse it gets. And it just never it doesn't seem to get better more.
Yeah, no, energetically it's self-perpetuating, it's self-prophesizing.
Yeah, you're just
You're
feeding it.
speaking into form.
It's like,
We're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but that's exactly what it is.
yeah. And it,
And the truth is, we're not saying that everything is, kumbaya and it's all going to be perfect. A whole bunch of crap happens in life all the time. But what choice are you going to make? Who are you
mhm.
going to become to deal with that, knowing, yes, challenges do happen. It's not what if they happen, they do happen. So, accepting that, how are you going to choose to be?
Yeah. And right, you and I, all of us are nobody's perfect, but striving for the perfection is the goal. And we all will stumble at different times. And knowing who you can. So here's what I lost my train of thought for a second.
Sorry.
But but in that stumble, sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I just want to be mad. So I'm going to be mad. And I have occasionally, I'll literally set a timer. I can't remember where I learned this one either. It wasn't me. I wish I could have come up with this one, but like a 5 minutes and you set a timer and it's like, I'm just going to be So bluntly put, I'm just going to be pissed off for 5 minutes and complain. And if I'm around other people, I will tell them like, I just want to complain for 5 minutes. Let me complain and just whine and be a nana, as they say in New Zealand. Let me just do this for a little bit, and then when I'm done, like I'll be done. I promise. Because sometimes, right? Sometimes that's what you need. If you try to just not do that, eventually it's going to come out. And I
Oh
know that
yeah.
100% because I was like, never, no, no, you always have to be happy all the time. And you can't ever tell anybody that you're not happy. And if you're sad, you're weak.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's very true because if we're ignoring what is real, because all emotions are all energy. So if you're suppressing it, if you're getting over it, you're pushing it down, you're suppressing it until it's going to blow like a pressure cooker. And sometimes we literally have to blow off steam. But yes, it's a great thing to set up a timer. Now, it has been said, and I forget exactly what case studies this is, but Annie Lala used to always teach this part. If, in fact, you focus on the emotion and allow yourself to really feel that emotion, every ounce of what it is, within 7 minutes, that entire emotion will be released from you energetically. It doesn't stay in your cells, so you're not kind of grumbling and say a little bit, and then hours later you're still pissed off. It's like I am sometimes with tech, I must admit. Um, other than that, but tech is my friend. That's my mantra. Uh, but yes, we can all get caught in that for sure. And it isn't easy to necessarily embrace an emotion that is contrary to what we want to be for the better version of ourselves. So I think it's a fabulous idea to put a timer onto yourself and just allow it.
yeah. And the other thing that's really helpful too is again going back to awareness, is identifying your, I call it my anchor. It's like a keystone habit, I think is another way of putting it. It's what is the one thing that you do that makes everything right in the world?
Okay. Your core, your center, what grounds you.
Yeah,
Got
what grounds you? What is the thing that grounds you? And really understanding that so that you know that if you wanted to, you could go do that thing. And it's about making a decision, right? Sometimes, like I said, I'm just like, I'm just going to be pissed off in this moment because I just want to be mad and it feels good to be mad sometimes.
it.
And then
Yeah, it does.
and then and then other times I'm like, you know what? I'm going to the gym because that's my spot. That's just because I've been doing it for so long and I've been in the and the gym for me is not about just building skeletal muscle. It's about building my brain also because the more fit you are, the better your brain works also, and the better you're able to deal with those things that come in. And that is the place that once I walk through, for me, once I walk through those doors, 99% of the time, everything else, it's like I walk through those, those curtains hanging in freezers, like meat freezers when you
Oh
walk
yeah,
through them, they're all
yeah.
split. Yeah. It's like walking through that because it just strips everything off as I walk in and it's all left at the door. And it's just like, okay, now it's just me, myself, and I, and us three are going to have a good time at the gym.
Exactly. I just pictured a car wash.
There you go. That
Yeah.
one too.
Oh, exactly. And it's like when you start embracing these aspects of what can anchor you, it doesn't take like I have to work at to shift. It just happens. It's instantaneous. I know I'm a gym rat, so my whole life, and I've taught ever since I was 16. So yeah, the second I step into any environment like that, poof, I'm that's the person I am while I'm there, and the rest of the world goes away. So
Hmm.
which I
And
kind of miss not having my studio at this point, but being on this coast, but things change.
yeah, roll with it, right?
Yep. So if you gave 5 pointers for somebody to follow, what would you start with down
Mm.
to the five? Because, folks, we do have something nice and a surprise for you after this, so not to worry. But I'm
I
putting you
would
on the spot, Travis.
No, it's great. It's great. The number one thing, so number one is awareness, is starting to pay attention to yourself, the way you speak, and awareness of other people and the way they speak and the language they use and the results they get, and comparing that to the people that, because there's probably somebody out there that you want to not idolize or be like, but somebody that has something that you're like, I wonder how they figured that thing out, right? So what do they do versus the other people that aren't getting that result? What do they do? So awareness would be number one for me. Number two is in that striving for like that feels like unreachable perfection, impossible thing is reverse engineering it from that end point,
Mhm.
right? So I always say you have your goal, like your goal's up here, and then you have objectives that help support the goal, and then you have tasks that help support the objective. So as you reverse engineer it, what are the tasks? And there might be a better name than that, but uh, what are the things that you need to do to be able to get yourself a little bit closer to the objectives, to the goals, but when you do that, it's what is the simplest? And looking at it as there's 10 things that I need to do, or 10 things that could get me there. Which one, identify the one that's going to get you there, get you the results you want, that is the most effective, efficient, easiest one to do, the funnest one to do, and something that you will do. So even
Right.
if it's not going to get you quickly there, if you can start the momentum and the consistency with something that's simple and easy, because like I said, the other thing too is like people were like, I'm going to the gym every day. And it's like, yeah, I haven't gone to the gym in like 10 years. You're gonna go every day now. Some people have done that. That does happen, but rarely. And
True.
so
And
start
so what if somebody can't break it down quite like that? Then because they may not be able to focus and see that yet. So what I would say to the person is, well, what can you do right now?
right now. Yes.
What is the one thing you can do right now? Instead of some people get very overwhelmed even trying to break the step out of, okay, what is the simplest? What is the most effective? And then they go down that rabbit hole. I know, I've done that many times. So that's why I'm saying it. So I've learned.
Yeah.
What is the one single thing I can do right now, this moment? And it starts to clear the way. It starts to open things up. But
Yeah.
yes, it is absolutely bringing that unreachable goal that's out there to come into this present moment. Okay, so we have two
Yeah.
things. Okay,
I
so
should have I should have honestly started with I'm gonna put this one, I'm gonna jump in the Wayback Machine and we're gonna
okay.
go back to the beginning. And it's gonna be the first thing is defining what that thing is. Defining if you have something that you want, who do you need to become to achieve that thing? What are the characteristics of that person who has achieved that? Who are they? Or who are you in that spot? And then it makes everything else a little bit easier because you can put yourself back into that place when you need to, when you're looking at awareness and when you're looking at um, what was the other one? The anchor.
Mhm.
So defining what perfection is, defining what it is that you see as the ideal you, being aware of yourself and others and seeing the contrast and comparison between the results they're getting and you're getting, having that anchor to do to be able to reset, to be able to disconnect or connect, depending on how you look at it. And then that leads into who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
And that's where it's that sort of, so I may only have four. I could probably think of another one, but that's
Yeah.
what ties it all together, right? Because
Well,
when you
no,
kind
that's okay because we kind of did two in one.
of
So I'll give it a five. But
mhm.
but here's part of the important thing is that the last thing to do is to reach out to other people and start being bombarded by their opinions.
Hmm.
That's not the first place to go. The first place is defining.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just like in energetically, when people want to manifest their dreams, there's three questions I ask them. And it starts with, what is your dream? Then it's, why is your dream? Because we need to make sure it really fits. But you first have to define the dream. If you can't define the dream, it's a wish. Same thing with a goal. It's only a wish. It's not something you really want to achieve yet. And the third thing is, how does that make you actually feel? Does that make you joyful? So that's going to be your approach. If it makes you resentful, well, guess what? There's some work that needs to be done there, or it's clearly not the right thing.
Hmm.
And that's, we know in the fitness world, without question, if somebody is resentful, that they don't want to do the work and they instantly want this different body, it's not going to happen. It just isn't. It's impossible. That's the impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too about defining that in the beginning is it gives you a reference point to be able to find the people that are in that same vibration, if we want to put it that way, that will help you all rise together versus you trying to drag somebody with you or somebody dragging you down and you're just in this tug of war the whole time versus everybody has that rising tide mentality and that growth mindset and they're looking forward to the challenges because the
Right.
challenges are helping them grow versus pulling
And
them.
and it's the tempo of the individual too. Some are so far over the edge that that energy may burn you out
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
if they're too high geared. Um, and so yeah, it that definitely, and I was just gonna say something too, and I just lost that frame real quick. It may come back. Uh, it might not.
It's all going around.
It's all going around there. Um, but most definitely it's not coming back right now, guys. So
It will
we'll keep
when
moving forward. We'll keep moving forward on that. So so do you recommend for somebody just to take something clean, a clean pieces of paper, clean doc, a clean journal, something that isn't connected to anything else, and start paying attention and writing this down so they can start literally seeing it for themselves. There is something very profound, though, I will tell you guys to do pen to paper. Okay, I'm a strong advocate because, oh, and it's coming back. Okay, so when we talk about frequency and stuff, you may not necessarily resonate with that, but you will resonate with the thought of somebody with the same mindset. And if you don't really know or don't know how to assess, there's a very simple way. If the people you're around, you feel good, you feel uplifted, you feel energized, guess what? You're in the right place. If you're surrounded by other people and you're not sure, but you're feeling exhausted, dragged down, irritable, angry, guess what? Wrong people, at least for that subject matter. So that's a quick little indication, little quick check test.
Yeah, that one's huge. How do you feel afterwards? Especially if you're like I'm an introvert and people think I'm
Most
an
people won't believe that,
no,
Travis.
people think I'm an extrovert, but it's a little different, where I'm living now because of the people that I'm hanging out with. And so when I do go out into the world and have conversations and spend hours doing things in a large group, I don't have the same, it doesn't have the same effect on me as it did in the past, where in the past I would go and there were good people at the other places too, but for some weird reason, it was different. And I would need at least a day, sometimes 2 days, where I'm just like, I'm not going anywhere. Don't don't talk to me. I'm gonna just be in my house and I'm not leaving. So, and it makes a huge difference. And I do feel like, I have upped a little bit in the consistency of the people that I'm spending
Hmm.
time with now in where I'm at. So that's definitely helped a lot.
Well, we're not going to go into that today, but there are reasons for all of that.
Mhm.
And there is real recharge, and it's not necessarily introversion, that I totally understand that. It's just terms that somebody came up with, introvert, extrovert type thing. Because if you thought of the term right now, anybody seeing you would not believe that for a second. And that's just the way it goes. So it's a whole energetic thing, and maybe someday we'll just come and talk about that itself.
Yeah, love it.
So I would love to hear a closing of what you would love to leave the audience with,
Ah,
to
well,
wind this all up, to bring it all together.
yeah, one thing I would, the biggest thing is keep it simple. Keep it simple and don't wait for everything to be perfect. Just start. All right. Because in the past, was a perfectionist, right? I was looking to be perfect, not striving for this perfection and picking like the simplest thing that I could do to just start the ball rolling. And by doing that and just starting and just start moving. Movement is huge
Hmm.
mentally and physically, right? Once you get started, then it's easy to keep going. And going back to the awareness thing. So the other thing that I created something that I call the human app. An app is it's not an app for your phone because I'm a huge believer in the pen to paper thing, right? I do pencil to paper, but is because when you do that, it's really, really easy to disconnect yourself from all the technology. You can go in another room, you can go
Hmm.
wherever, and then it's just you and the paper. And so you have no distractions or anything like that. And when I did this app, this is an acronym for awareness, perspective, and philosophy. And for me, it was about, along with everything else we've talked about, but it was about developing those aspects of me in my awareness and then the perspective I had about that awareness and then the philosophy I had that tied all of that together that encompassed my entire life. So that was kind of the trifecta that helped support everything along the way.
Hmm.
Again, that's a long way of saying just begin.
Yeah, absolutely. Energy plus intention. You must couple that with action to get results. It is that simple. And that's what I teach. So
That's
with the
awesome.
power of ancient
Perfect.
wisdom here. Well, Travis, this has been wonderful. We promised the people around 60 minutes so they can
I
take
didn't
their
even
break.
realize it's gone over.
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, we started just a wee bit late too. So, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for coming on board. Everybody, we will in the comments, Colleen, I think, is where we put the the gift
In the
that Travis
description.
has. I'm sorry.
We'll put it in the description.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, listen to Colleen because she handles this for you guys. Um, but he has a wonderful gift to help get you started with this. And please come back and revisit. This will stay up, but we'll also put it over in replay for those that don't know that live does stay and it technically is a replay, but we'll put it over in replay for you as well. And stop the parts that you resonate with. Take your notes. Take on something that is going to make you joyful. And you're going to feel so much better of who you want to become. We are here to inspire you, support you, root for you, believe in you when you don't. And we'll have all the contact information for you and come visit us at any time. Travis has several things that are coming up. So people that want to understand go high level a little bit more, or want to understand some AI, want to understand some health and fitness. We also have other workshops about understanding what really gets you stuck when you have these great goals going on, how you really can start to understand the art of creation and get the results that you want to design. So there's many things. We will always be here. Please come and visit us. All our contact information will be available to you. Are we good?
We're good.
Then we're sending you all off with love and blessings. Until next time.